Well, you almost thought that we might have talked about this before getting in the car.
Yeah.
But we actually did, and ironically, it was the same set of things.
Yeah, and it's but we're still unscripted. I need that to be.
That is unscripted.
I need that to
That's
be.
why I put that in.
Yeah.
Quick, the plane's coming. They're dive bombing us. Close all.
I forget how low I have the steering wheel for our recordings. It almost hit my treasures.
Nice. Your treasures. My precious.
I do. See my treasures.
Look at that. You got little trinkets and treasures
Yeah.
and beard balm.
Man.
Nice. Nice. On that note, I'm Scott Davenport.
I'm the guy who uses beard balm. Spencer Pablo.
Welcome to Photographers and Cars, newest episode yet.
Hello.
And so,
Hello.
hello.
How's your week been?
It has been good. I am,
Yeah?
I am, getting ready for a workshop. So I'm going to have some fun this weekend. Got a bunch of photographers. I'm going to go play at the beach for a few days.
So when you do these workshops, a question for you.
Question.
At the very end of your workshops, do you ever just have like a, hey, let's all put our work out there? And are you open to hearing feedback or anything like that?
So initially, I didn't do that, but in the last year and a half, that is a part of the workshop.
We should talk about that.
We share work because photos should be seen. And so that's a good topic. It's like, getting feedback on your work. Because you've been a judge.
I have been
for photo contests or other things.
High schools, different things that you can be a judge for photographically. I've been. Mm-hmm. So
So it's weird. Like a whole ton of questions are flooding into my mind right now because there's the first hurdle that I had was, well, who am I to tell somebody else your work's good or bad?
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm really self-critical of my own work. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that on previous shows. You go back and look at your own work.
That was a great episode, by the way. Yeah.
So this is horrible. I can't stand that. I gotta do better on this. I gotta do better on that.
I'm gonna crack the window.
So when you are judging a photo,
mm-hmm.
I have a certain regimen in my head that I'll follow.
Sure.
What I don't want to taint your answer. What do you do?
No, I want what I'll do then. First off, is I'll rewind to when I first started judging. And just like you, I had a really hard time going, how can I judge someone else's work? They did that. They're the artist. Well. Mm-hmm. I feel that if they're just like me, they're hungry to learn how to, they got to find something to grow into, right? And I give them high fives. I applaud because they want to know what to get better at. So that's how I was able to get past that. And it doesn't matter how much they have to fix or how little they have. I'm not going to use fix. It doesn't matter how much they have to grow or how little they have to grow. They want feedback. I have to find it. But it sounds like just like you, we have a particular criteria that we put these images.
And the growth thing too is that people that are just starting out in photography, mm-hmm. It's like leaps and bounds really early.
Yeah.
And then after some period of time, improvements are slivers of improvement, and those never end.
No.
So I guess that's the thing too. It's you're always trying to give somebody some type of feedback.
Yeah.
So criteria for, when you look at a photo, what do you look for?
So one of the first things I look for is composition. Mm-hmm. I look at the image and I see, hey, does this image take me on various parts of the frame? Am I looking at this immediately because of leading lines? Am I looking at this because of the color? Am I looking at this because they somehow put text? They took a picture of text and I forget what that phenomenon is, but if there's text in your image, you somehow are drawn to read it first before you do anything else. Am I looking at the person's face? Is the person's face doing something? I look at the composition, where that person is in the frame, how my eyes dance.
Sure, how your eye moves around the frame.
Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense.
Composition's one of them.
So, that's the first level that I do is I'll look for composition.
Cool.
And to add to that, I'll do border patrol, where I look around the edges because of those little things that pull my eye out of the frame.
Yeah.
sometimes you can't avoid them, but sometimes you can.
Yeah.
And so, trying to make sure I don't have any of those things that are there.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, I have seen some images that have leading lines that point outside of the frame, and I'm like, I want to see what's there.
So a little sidebar on leading lines is, when I first learned, leading lines, great. Lines. I can have lines on my photo. They need to lead somewhere.
Yeah.
Lead to a subject. Don't just lead.
Absolutely.
Lead somewhere. And ideally, it's one of those, how do I know if they're leading into the frame or out of the frame? It's just a line. It's where your subject is.
Yeah.
So composition's the first.
Do you have an example of leading lines?
I've got tons of leading lines. It's like all over my
Maybe
photos,
we should drop one in right about now.
Yeah, sure. I think we might be able to arrange for that.
Right now.
No, maybe now again. Yeah, one of those frozen smiles like when you're talking to somebody on FaceTime over a crappy internet connection.
Yeah. So what else other than composition do you do?
The next level I'll usually do is I'll call it like technical execution. Whether it's the lens choice or is everything landscape, is everything in focus? Where did you find a decent subject that's it kind of borders on composition, but does the photo, was it executed well? Exposure's good. There's nothing that's blown out that's important. You can have things that are blown out, but that's okay. It's an important detail that's lost.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing.
That's good because that's exactly what I do too. After composition, it's literally is what needs to be in focus. Yeah. You had mentioned in landscape.
You almost thought that we might have talked about this before getting in the car.
Yeah.
But we actually did, and ironically, it was the same set of things.
Yeah, and it's but we're still unscripted. I need that to be.
That is unscripted.
I need that to be.
That's why I put that in.
Yeah.
I'm pulling back the curtain.
Oh God.
So anyway, you were saying.
So that's exactly what I do. I look at is everything that needs to be in focus. Is something dirty? Is your sensor dirty? Did you clean up that image?
That one I usually leave to like my third level, which is how the image was processed.
Oh,
because fine, I'm at the ocean all the time. Of course, I got salt spray and crap and stuff all over the camera, but I'm going to clean that up before I share the photo.
Oh,
right. So either way, you could say, yeah, you should have cleaned your lens, and that was more of a technical thing to do. But you know what? Sensor spots happen.
Processing does deserve its own criteria. I actually would have just clumped it together, but no, I'm glad.
Oh no, I actually do processing as a third thing because you can have the photo like tack sharp focus, and then I'm going to give it a color treatment that is completely unnatural. Right? Like I'm going to make all of the people orange that aren't in office. Yeah. And that would be, it's in my mind, a processing problem, not a technical execution.
Right.
I guess I'll caveat that with, I'm a landscape guy. I'm not thinking about lighting someone for a portrait, and I've lit them in such a way that they're unflattering, and there's nothing I can do processing wise to correct that. That would be a technical problem. But yeah, so processing wise, did contrast get pushed too far, and you get like those halos around things, so stuff like that. And some of those things are artistic choices. I mean, that's the other part of, at least when I critique a photo, the recommendations or suggestions I give are usually framed in, here's an experiment to try. Yeah. Because that's the beauty, especially when it's, if it's on the processing side, they can go try right away. Yeah. But if it's for, composition or so forth, it applies to whatever your next shoot is.
You just said something that is intriguing to me. You said it is the artist's choice to make that decision. Yes. Now, you yourself are an artist. So when you see someone do something to an image that is something you wouldn't do, how do you treat that?
Again, to me, it is, I'll give you my opinion.
Okay.
Because again, my critiques are generally people that are on my workshops, and they've come to the workshop hopefully because they like my style of photography. Sure. And so, like, I don't know if it's a composition that I find, I don't want distracting or unbalanced, or somehow it leaves me unsettled. I'll say, well, this is what this is making me feel, and I'll just describe what I'm feeling and say, well, if perhaps it was, I don't know, this was on this third, or this is a scene which calls for straight on symmetry, right? And just talk about it in those terms. Not necessarily, you've messed this photo up. It's more, this is what this is making me feel. Or if it's the processing side of it, to me, this type of processing is a little aggressive for this photo.
I gotcha.
And I would suggest trying X, Y, or Z.
I gotcha.
But at the end of it, it's it is the other person's photo, and if that's the way that they wanted to convey that scene, then that's fine, because it kind of goes back to that. Well, who am I to say that my art is better than your art, because it's all subjective.
Very true, but because you're human and you are now given the judging eye. So this happens a lot of times when I look at a set of images that I need to pick the top 3, and then of that I need to go, this is 3, 2, and 1. Yeah. Ultimately the grand prize winner. But I'm given 20 images to go through. I have to look at them, and I have to look at them through my bias. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. I mean, I've not really done work at all with photo contests.
Okay.
Whether it be a participant or a judge.
Sure.
But yeah, there has to be, because people are people.
Yeah.
If in the landscape category, if I want to speak to the core essence of a human, it's going to be some scene that's reasonably green, there's a water source, and there's a tree, relatively low branches to the ground, because our innate caveman wants to be able to run up there and have shelter and safety from whatever predators are around, because it's this pastoral scene that says, I could live here and I could prosper and I have a place to be safe. And that's just that's like baked into our DNA from however many tens of thousands of years. But if somebody were to submit a bunch of photos, and if there's stuff with the ocean in it, chances are I'm going to like that more than a mountain.
So speaking of someone who has a bunch of photos, here's a tip I think I have for you guys. If you guys are in that, you're in a point where you want to submit images to a contest, but holy moly, you've got like 50 images and you want to hone in on just a select few that you want to submit. I would put it against the criteria that Scott just mentioned: composition, technical, and processing, and see what's up, and also find out who's judging.
I guess if you're if you're really angling to win the contest, if you know who the judge is and you see what they're kind of working, I suppose that's a way to go. But other ways to just improve yourself. I mean, we talked about comparing against your old work. We kind of talked about that a couple episodes ago. But finding I'll call it a trusted source. I didn't tell you about this before. A few years ago, I wrote a blog post that was like, Scott's rules to photo critiques, or something like my laws of photo critiquing. And one of them was, everyone has an opinion, right? Which and you need to trust the source. Just because somebody says, I don't like your photo. Well, if you look at their work and you don't particularly like the work they're producing, well, chances are that's not the kind of person you're looking to get feedback on, because you're trying to grow into a certain style, a certain look, or whatever, whichever photographers that you admire. So, finding a source that you trust and you also have seen their work and you like.
And you like it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very important, because if you surround yourself with photographers you want to be or you want to learn from, trust in them. But if you get their feedback and you're like, no, I'm not going to listen to it, then you might want to just question, hey, is this the person?
That's it's a very important distinction. Like you said, not listen to it is different than not execute on it. Listen to it, absorb it, hear what was said.
Right.
But back to, you're the artist. You can choose not to. I want to make sure your camera doesn't get knocked over by this guy. You can choose not to take that advice and incorporate it into your work.
Right.
There's some things that you like and some things that you don't. And if you don't want to take that advice, that's totally fine.
Sure.
Yeah. We're semi-distracted here because one of the park rangers in the area just pulled up, and I guess at first I thought he was going to hook up the front rig thing to this thing and wrench it open, but he's just opening up a gate.
Yeah. We're actually not. This is a different episode. We're not in a straight. We're actually in a park.
Yeah.
So we're in a fun park. This park has a lot of visual things for us to draw our attention. We're just
so apologies if we're a little distracted.
He's now I can see my gear again.
I could see it through the window before, so it was okay. Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, as I think I forgot what I was saying. Something about finding a trusted source to get input on your work, and accept the feedback in the sense that you've listened to it and you've consciously made a choice to either
execute or not execute
or not. Yeah. So that's it's an important distinction.
Yeah. So what do you got going on?
What's next?
Yeah, man.
Let's see. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I might be doing a webinar in May with On One.
Okay.
We're still trying to work out the scheduling
on
it. And then when the summer comes, I'm hoping to take a little bit of a road trip up to, I'll call it the Big Sur area. Probably not as far north as Santa Cruz, but
I love that area.
That area out there. Yep, doing some scouting.
Cool.
Yeah. What about yourself?
I am teaching a workshop, actually, or a class rather, up at PhotoCon LA, where I'm going to talk to the attendees on how to edit photos on a mobile device.
Oh, all right.
It's amazing how powerful these phones are. So yeah, that's what I got.
Sweet.
Other than that, I think we're losing our light out there, and I'm going to go ahead and get my gear before it falls or another F-150 runs it over.
Runs over it. Yeah. All right. That's your all.
See you next week, guys.
All right. See ya.